All right. So I guess now you understand what the plan was.
Absolutely. At Colts Law, we talk Indianapolis Colts football.
We're going to stick to what we know, fundamentals and technique, 1% better every day.
What's going on, Colts Nation? I'm Lawrence Owen, back finally after a week off with my guy, Loyalist, who has been very ill the last 2 weeks. He's still not up to par, but he decided, he's going to come in and join us today on this discussion. Loyalist, I'll give you a moment to talk to people real quick.
Just missed you guys. I'm glad to be back. Sorry for the extended leave of absence. Wasn't by desire, trust me. Just really glad to be back here talking about something less crazy than than life. It's just talking about football.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, we have this game coming up on Saturday at 1 o'clock. I'm not going to get into that too much because we will have set streams for that. Maybe tomorrow, maybe Friday. I'm not sure. I'm definitely going to do a live stream reaction to it. I don't know if Loyalist will be up to joining that one because we all know how that actually gets into somebody during a game and highs and lows and then fourth quarters of Cowboys games. He wouldn't have survived that. But today we're going to talk about the Colts and only the Colts, and not just about the Colts, but what do they need to be a competitive playoff team, right? What is needed for that to happen? There's a lot of people out there that saying blow the team up, fire everybody, trade all of our big guys, gather a bunch of draft picks, and just draft a whole new team with a whole new GM, a whole new head coach. And then there's people out there that say, no, we need one, maybe two people. And I think that this team is good to go and can be competitive. So between Loyalist and I and those of you sitting at home, we're going to try to sift through all the BS, all right, and actually look at the root of the problem for the team and see exactly what we need moving forward. Not necessarily just the offseason, starting right now, moving forward. What does this team need in order to be a competitive playoff team year in and year out?
Yeah, and quite honestly, this last week was probably one of the biggest things they needed. They just needed, we were talking about it before we got up live. They needed a break. They needed to this has been a rough year. This is not what any of these guys, it's not what we expected, none of that. But the thing is, these guys are still out there busting their humps, practicing on the daily. So this bye week, it was important. It was very important to these guys. 14 weeks, before you get your bye. That's just a long time, especially when you're having the struggles that this team's had this year.
Oh, yeah. And I was talking to Rodney. I was talking to Gerard. I talked to a couple other players, and they all straight up said this bye week was absolutely needed. They could have used it a couple weeks before. They would have loved to have had this bye week, say, right, the week that Frank Reich was terminated, and the day and give Saturday that 2 weeks to get in and and let everybody adjust and everything. It would have been great at that point. But after what happened in the fourth quarter with the Cowboys, this bye week was absolutely necessary. It couldn't have came at a outside. It was so needed because you got to let that out. You got to just let that go, because if you sit there and have a whole week of trying to prepare for another game against a really good offense and have that fourth quarter on your mind, you're just going to be in the dumps the whole time. You needed your personal time, just like I needed my personal time. So, I hope everybody has had a wonderful 2 weeks now. Obviously, we've had Thanksgiving, and we're into the holiday season now. And man, in all honesty, what the Colts need the most right now, and I know a lot of people are going to get on me about this. Obviously, player-wise, we'll get into that. Coaches and the brass and things like that. That's important. But in all honesty, the Colts got to start winning. They can't, because I know that's what I'm saying. People are going to get on me about this, about no, winning's going to be counterproductive. No, it won't, because if you start winning games, then that puts a positive on the rest of the team. The players realize, maybe there's something here. Let's try to stick around. Start winning near the end of the season with a brand. Look what happened to the Raiders last year. They were a dumpster fire. The head coach got fired, and then the team started winning, made the playoffs. Well, they ended up getting a new head coach and knew this and knew that. It didn't do jack or squat for them until a couple weeks ago, right? Same thing with the Broncos, right? The Broncos got their new quarterback and this and that. No. If you start winning, it builds on the team in the locker room. It helps you keep your good players for the next year. It helps you bring in good players during free agency. And don't say that the Colts don't get free agency players, because that's how we got Yannick Ngakoue. That's how we got Stephon Gilmore. That's how we get guys in for the Matt Ryan. I know that Matt Ryan is not the guy, but we still got him because we were, a team that were on the rise, and winning will put you on the rise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the thing is and I'm more on the other side of the thing. I look at that draft capital and stuff, and I'm just being honest. I don't want this team to lose, but with the teams that they have coming up, with the Chargers and the Vikings, these are games where they could play good football and still maybe not get the W, you know what I mean? Or what have you. And that's what I wanted to see. I just want to see these guys coming in and playing really good football. Yeah, I know mathematically it's still there, but to sit there and think that the Titans aren't going to get one more win, I just, I'm not
Even
sure
if
that
they get one more win and the Colts win out, we still win the division at 8-1, because that half a game, that tie counts as half a win, not even out. It'll put us over them, because you think about it. If they lose one more, if they win only one more game, they end up 8-9 on the season, and we would be 8-1. We would actually be over them.
I get that, but my point is,
I know it's still a long shot.
Yeah, and that was the thing. So right now, I'm not as worried. I mean, I'm still going to root for them to win. I'm still going to, I'm still going to put my crazy Colts loyalist hat on and root like a lunatic whenever they're playing and stuff. But to my point is, I am really paying a lot of attention to the way the bottom end of the standings is and stuff. And now the Colts are seventh? You know what I mean? But you sit there and you look, you still got 5 of those 6 teams outside of the Texans. You know what I mean? That are a game or 2 games, away. And it's like, so I am looking at that. But like I said, these teams that they've got coming up, I just play really sound football, play good football. And if that results in a win, rock on, let's go. I'm not going to sit there and let it ruin my day that, oh no, we lost some draft capital, because I don't want my team, like you said, I don't want my locker room. I don't want my team sitting there with this mindset of, oh, let's just go out here and stink the thing up, because you've said it. We've said it numerous times. These guys are playing for jobs. These guys are putting every snap is film that's going to be passed around through the other 31 teams in the league. Not to mention, that culture. You do not want to sit there and start. I mean, you look at these organizations, and I get, Cleveland and Detroit, they're starting to climb out of that culture of losing and stuff. We don't want to find ourselves in that spot, and yes, this year it feels like but you look at the games that we've lost, there's a lot of them where we were really competitive, we're really in it, should have won. I'm not excusing that, but what I'm saying is just the mindset. You want to keep these guys in a winning mind frame.
Absolutely. Now let's get into actual positions and players and things of that nature. Look, I'll tell you what, it's a toss-up for me. All right. We need to improve that offensive line, but we definitely need a young body at quarterback. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that the draft is all end all be all for quarterbacks for the Colts. There are young upside quarterbacks in the NFL right now that the Colts could grab if they become available. In all honesty, I don't see, and I've talked to a few people, there's quarterbacks right now, like this draft, there's not a quarterback in here that's a surefire win. All of them need some kind of, development, right? All of them. I don't see any of them as day one starters that's just going to walk in and light it up like a Joe Burrow did or a Justin Herbert or something of that nature. However, there are quarterbacks in the NFL that we could go get. I see Daniel Jones as being pretty much the same thing as the other quarterbacks, some of the top quarterbacks in this draft, only already having the experience and getting that development already through. If that's cool, if it don't, it don't. If we end up only having 4 wins and having, say, the 5th pick in the draft, fine. Go get, you're probably not going to get a certain quarterback from Alabama, but you might end up getting one of the other guys, top 3 or 4 guys that are out there during this draft. That's fine. If it falls to you, it falls to you. But there are options out there at quarterback. If the Ravens don't, tag Lamar Jackson, oh my God, I would absolutely throw if the Ravens don't tag Lamar Jackson and Lamar Jackson ends up hitting free agency, I would be so pissed off if Jim Irsay don't look at Ballard and say, just throw him the bag. Just do it. I mean, come on.
Yeah. See, but that's the thing. I mean, for me in this conversation, who's making those decisions? Is Chris Ballard still there making the decisions? Then you got to look at who's going to be your coaches. Are you just going to replace the offensive side of things, with the head coach and running back with the same D coordinator and stuff? So there's a lot of questions that I would like to see answers, because if you bring in a new head coach, all of a sudden now are you blowing up the defense as far as the coaching staff because they want to bring in their own guy? But like you said, quarterback for me is top tier. You've got to find a long-term answer. And I'm not saying that he has to be the long-term answer next year, but he has to be somebody that you can see evolve. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple guys that I wouldn't mind even going without a veteran leader, like a CJ Stroud or a Will Levis. And I understand that means that you remember Peyton Manning's first year going 3-13, set the record for intercept. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be rough. These guys aren't game ready. But what I'm saying is there's a couple of these that I wouldn't mind putting them in and just throwing them into the fire and letting them grow that way. And then you've got other guys, like you said, that more of the Trey Lance type, where you want to sit there and you want to give them a year, maybe more to get acclimated. And to me, that's, if you're making a pick like that, unless the upside is just super high upside, I just don't see that being a good solution for this Colts team, and then you're definitely going to need to, like you were saying, Daniel Jones or, Lamar Jackson or, Aaron Rodgers, or you're going to need.
I would not take Aaron Rodgers.
I know, but I'm saying you're going to need to put a name in there that has already played in the league and stuff. And to me, if you go that route, it's going to be longer to get that big picture. But the thing is that's where we're at. We need to find something.
Yeah, the one thing I will put a limitation on. Whoever we get as our long-term starter needs to be under 30 years old. Mm-hmm. That's just that right there is the limitation that needs to be on there. Okay. I don't want any more of these plug in guys that's only going to last a year or two, right? We need somebody with that's going to be here, that the team is going to understand, that he's going to be able to year in, year out. The offensive playbook won't have to be redone. The receivers and offensive line don't have to, relearn him and him relearn them, every year, that kind of situation. Absolutely not. Now, Here's the thing. Another. This is a basic rule I have had about drafting for years and years and years. If you have a top 10 pick, you use a top 10 pick on a player, he should be able to play in the NFL starting year one. He should be your starter year one, especially if he's a quarterback. You know, that's how I've always looked at it. I think that the Bears and the Niners and them, they reached for guys that weren't ready when they could have waited. You know, it's mind-boggling how some teams go about the draft when it comes to the quarterback because they're so desperate. And I understand we're desperate, but come on. I mean, come on. Look, if it's not there this year, it may be there next year. You know, trade back for picks next year, and then you got extra picks to go on, and then go sign somebody to be your starter. Like I said, you know, that's in the free agency, whether it's, you know, a Daniel Jones or even a Jacoby Brissett, who, you know, can be somebody, you know, that's reliable and a hell of a teacher, a hell of a locker room guy, right? Yeah. And you know he's not going to, like Gerard said, Jacoby Brissett won't lose you games. That's for damn sure. You know, he don't turn the football over.
And another thing I look at this is I want to be specific about the type of quarterback. If you bring in a veteran or whatever, you want it to be somebody that is more in the guise of what you're hoping to build around futurist. Okay. So my point is you don't want to go and get a Tom Brady. Okay. And I see Tom. I'm not saying that we need to go get Aaron Rodgers. It was just a proven quarterback. That was my name that first popped up. But my point is that I don't want to go, if you're going to go with the more mobile, you want to have a more wide open offense, then you need to go and find somebody, even if they're not going to give you a ton of wins, just somebody that's been a pro, that knows what the NFL is and can give guidance to whoever that young name that you put in there. That's the thing for me. It's like, don't keep sitting like this year. You know, we were looking at Matt Ryan, pocket guy. And then you look at Sam Ehlinger, totally the different, you know. Well, there's a lot of transition that had to go in there, you know, to play from one style of offense to the other. And that's the thing. It's like, you know, that's why, you know, like, you know, Jones, you know, from the Giants, that's a good choice because he has that in pocket presence, but he's also mobile and can get outside of the pocket. And that's the thing, you know, you've got to start finding pieces, whether it's this year or next year that you get your quarterback. You've got to start building the pieces and around a philosophy, you know, instead of sitting there and just trying to plug a name in there just to get you a couple extra wins. I'm much more, you know, when we're doing this process of stuff, I'm really wanting to find somebody that will help us get to the style of play or the philosophy of play that you want to play and much more longer, because the thing is the person you bring in may only be here for a year or two, you know, but after that, you know, you got to still bring in competition. I'm tired of there not being competition, especially at some of these more important positions.
That brings up the second part of this conversation, because I was talking about, to me, it's kind of 1A, 1B in the quarterback and offensive line position. If you cannot use that first round pick to go get a quarterback, let's say we have a top 10 pick. All right. We're going to have anywhere between probably pick 4 and pick 16. All right, that's what we're going to have. We went out, we'll probably have pick 18, actually, because, you know, if you make the playoffs, then it starts from the back of the playoffs down rather than your actual record. But you could have as high as pick 4 if we lose out, right? Depending upon how other teams happen. If a quarterback is not in your area and you go out and you find somebody else, trade back, or if there's a left tackle out there that reminds you of a Trent Williams or a Tyron Smith or something like that, hell yeah, all day long, right? Because that damn near fixes. Then all you got to do is use a 4th or 5th round pick on a guard, you know, and then next thing you know, your offensive line is so good that anyone back there, go ask the San Francisco 49ers. They could put any person back there that they wanted to, they could put Brandon Ayuk back there at quarterback and he would be successful because of that offensive line. He's got all day to do whatever he wants, So that's what I'm saying. It's a 1A, 1B situation.
Yeah. And the thing is, I wouldn't even just put that to a left tackle. I mean, ideally, that's where you would like. But the thing is, you could sit there and say that also about top. Now, when I'm saying this, I mean, these guys have to be like dudes. I mean, they got to be like super
the Quentin Nelson type.
Yeah, but I could say I wouldn't mind looking at a DN, at an early round pick or something.
Oh yeah, I mean,
as long as
if there's a Chase Young there,
and then another, and this is the one that to me is this, for a wide receiver. If you go early with the wide receiver, it's got to be somebody that there is very little doubt about. It's got to be somebody that you think is going to come in and really, because the thing is our receiving core is young and talented. Okay. Michael Pittman Jr., Paris Campbell, Alec Pierce, but the thing is Alec Pierce has got 1 year in. Let's don't just sit there and rest on our laurels there. So my point is like if a Marvin Harrison Jr., say we get up high, and maybe let's say we get the 5th or 6th pick in the draft. Okay. And maybe we find a position where we could drop a couple spots and we still think that we can get a Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm not opposed to that either, because now you're giving yourself more assets either for this draft or the following draft, but you're also getting a receiver that, I mean, there's a couple receivers in this draft where I'm like, you know what? If they were available to the Colts early on, I would even, give some thought to that, but there again, tackle for sure is my first and foremost. If I can find a really solid left tackle, DN, and then much lower, but I'm much more particular about the receiver, to fill that spot.
Well, we get ourselves a DN, especially, we get a DN and able to keep Unique. Whoa, that'd be awesome. That'd be a great, bookend. We would never have had a bookend as good as that since Freeney and Mathis. That'd be awesome for the defense that we currently have if we're able to keep them. Some of the guys like Rodney McLeod's on the 1-year contract. Everybody wants to keep him at least another year. And Unique Ngakoue is on the up end. He's on the path right now to have the best year of his career. So that's good news as well. But look, what I'm basically saying, it's not time to rebuild this team. It's a retool time. Now, retooling meaning you're still building for the future. You're adding players because most of the players we have on our team are young and very good. And if we get ourselves look, if we come into a situation where we end up getting, say, a Daniel Jones, Jimmy G, or something like that, and able to fix the offensive line at right guard, left tackle in the draft, and then in the process being able to trade back to get those guys so that we're building our draft assets for the next year for a quarterback, we would be competitive next year offensively, I think, and still be building for the future at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that is what is most important. You don't completely tear this team down because there's too much talent on this team right now.
Yeah. And the thing is, and I see in the chat here, and I'm going to make, okay, when I'm throwing Aaron Rodgers or Marvin Harrison, I'm using these names as far as to put in a category, what type of player. Okay. I'm not talking, that specific player per se, and I want to, pull this up because this here is
I knew you was going to put that up.
Absolutely. He says, don't sell Ryman. I'm not selling Ryman.
No.
But what I'm saying is I want Ryman to have to earn that spot because the worst case scenario, if you go out and you get Ryman can slide over to right tackle. Ryman can slide over to right guard. I mean, there's things where you can elevate with the draft. You can draft a stud, and you can elevate not just that position, but other positions.
Or have an amazing backup in case of injury.
Yeah, I don't want to sit there and see Pryor need to be our swing tackle next year. I don't even want, I mean, and you mentioned this earlier, and I do want to bring this up. There is a lot of things that we need to decide just with this roster. Rodney McLeod, Paris Campbell. I mean, you look at our linebacking core, okay? And I know this isn't going to be popular, but Shaq has had a struggle this year, and we don't know. I mean, I fully believe he's going to come back and be the stud that he was and stuff, but we don't know that, okay? When you start talking about nerves and stuff, okay, so then you sit there and you look at, okay, you're not 100% sure with Shaq, but you think he's going to be back healthy. But then you look at Bobby Okereke, EJ Speed, both of these guys are up for contract this year. I mean, you take them two out, and all of a sudden, you've got a Zaire Franklin left in that linebacker room, and then a lot of special team players, whether it's JoJo Doman and my point is let's.
Well, I mean, some of these guys that we talk about started out special teams. Franklin, who led the NFL in tackles, what I mean?
No, but my point is you're looking at, because you don't know what you're going to get with Shaq, and then if you don't bring Bobby back and you don't bring EJ, which I think EJ will be a lot easier to bring back than Bobby, because I think Bobby's going to sit there and
he's going to get 10 to 15 million a year. Easy.
Yeah. And that linebacker position, if we stay with this defensive scheme, is vital. You know what I mean? And like I said, I just don't want to sit there and just assume, because I feel like that's been something that's bit us in the butt a lot this year. It's just assuming that Danny Pinter could step in at right guard and play. Just assuming that Matt Pryor, because these guys, there wasn't competition. I mean, Dennis Kelly was the closest one, and he didn't even get on the field until week 3 or 4. I mean, and there again,
and where's he at now?
Yeah,
right? He's
been
a backup.
Yeah, he's been shuttling in and out at that. And the thing is, I'm just tired of just giving people another position. Kicker, as much trouble as we've got. Chase McLaughlin. You're going to need to re-sign him or find another answer. So there's just
that's lot of $3 million though.
I understand, but I'm just saying, there's a lot of positions that we need to shore up before we even start, the building. I don't want to go through this. Chris Reed and Glowinski, and then all of a sudden see both of them gone. And now all of a sudden you're just sitting there looking at Danny Pinter going, you the guy. I don't want that to happen this year. I really don't. I want to sit there and we've said this last year and the year before. Give me competition, because interior line needs more attention.
I was getting ready to get into that after you got done talking about what you were saying.
See, and like I said, it's easier to find interior in the draft, okay? But I'm telling you right now, I'm not 100% sold on Ryman yet, and I'm not selling him short, but I want somebody to push him. Let's push that left tackle position. Let's put this question mark at left tackle to bed. Okay, I don't care what your quarterback is. As long as he's right-handed, you want a stud on that left tackle position.
So, Wyatt, what I'm going to say is I like Ryan Kelly sitting right now. Ever since Jeff Saturday's got here, Ryan Kelly has gone back to being his Pro Bowl self. He's looked much, much better over the last 3 weeks, in my opinion. However, that right guard position needs upgraded. And that's a situation that's either a late day 2 or an early day 3. Because I can see round 3, round 4, round 5 getting a guard there, because the guards that we have, they're really, really late, like round 6, round 7, and you could get quality starters 3, 4, 5 at guard. All right. So, and this is a situation here. My thing about this year's draft is what I'm saying. If you could trade back, because people are sitting there saying that, we need that now. We need at some point to get a top talent in the draft. And absolutely, I'm not counting that out. But if the situation calls for it and we have to trade back, adding ammunition for next year to be able to move up in the draft the following year, if we have the quarterback situation at least filled for next year, that's the thing. I don't want to go out there next year with Matt Ryan as the starter. I don't want, Sam Ellinger as our starter or Nick Foles as our starter. But so that's the thing right there. We got to fill it up somehow with something that could be a useful situation for us to do that, in my opinion.
And I'd like to go a little step further. Is you guys remember in 2018, which I get it, it was it was pick number 3 with Quentin Nelson, but we dropped just a little bit. I don't want to drop a lot. If we drop, you don't want to drop a lot, and then you want to acquire assets. Okay. Now I'm not sitting there saying that, if we're 5th that we're going to drop to 7. No, but I'm saying if you're 5th and you drop to 8, 9, 10 in that area, and you can acquire future picks and still get a good solid offensive lineman, or maybe then you can sit there and find one of these quarterbacks that maybe that's doubtful. But my point is I don't want to drop way low. I don't want to be in the 20s. If we're dropping down there, they better freaking gave us the farm, or like you said, already had an answer at that quarterback position. And a solid answer like a Lamar or something of that. If I have Daniel Jones, no, Daniel Jones doesn't put me at ease at that quarterback position. Not to say that he can't be the guy, but I've got to see him in my system. I've got to see what he looks like with this O-line. I've got to, so that's where I'm like, if you put somebody at that quarterback position as a Lamar Jackson, it's proven, what you got. Now you just got to build around it. I'm fine with that because, Lamar Jackson puts the whole quarterback question to bed for me, at least, until the following year, because, like I said, the only thing you're worried about after that is injuries, but my point is
money.
Drop. Well, listen, as desperate as this team is for a quarterback, I got a feeling that we could see Mr. Irsay going, oh, okay, hang on. I got an extended part of this checkbook I'm going to use for this. But yeah, you just you gotta find somebody that, like you said 30. I'm more of 27. I don't want a quarterback that's older than 27. I want somebody that can give me 2-3 solid years,
Well, at 30, At 30, I'm looking at 5 to 7 years of quality play,
Well, what type of quarterback are you talking about? Because if you're talking about more your mobile.
Well, again, it depends.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want someone that can throw from the pocket. The quarterbacks still have to do that in today's football. All right.
Yeah.
Now, if they got a little bit of mobility with them, or whatnot, great. But they still got to be accurate, be able to read a defense and get through progressions from the pocket. Right.
Yeah, because like you said, you want your Josh Allen or your Jalen Hurts or your Patrick Mahomes, somebody that can move around, can move the chains with his feet, but also can just sit there and eviscerate you from the pocket.
All right, King Cracker, I'd be madder than hell if the Colts traded up in this draft. There is nobody in this draft, in my opinion, worth trading up for. Right? I don't see a trade up utilizing extra stuff for maybes in a draft, because as of right now, I don't see a surefire guy where the Colts need. All right, I don't see a surefire all-pro type caliber franchise guy long term in this draft, and that's who I would trade up in the first round. That's where that's what you would do. I wouldn't waste it. In future drafts, maybe there are. And that's why I'm saying trading back this year might be the possibility, so you could trade up if you know that there's a guy in next year's draft that you could do that with. I'm absolutely about going out and getting the guy that I absolutely need for this team. It's just you gotta know who's gonna fit your team and who's gonna be worth the draft capital that you're going to be putting out.
I need some explanation on this one, man, because
you trade back to the level in which the person you want to take. If a player you want is a 2025, then that's where you go. If you trade to 15, you're reaching. Yeah. Okay. I understand that.
Okay. But my point is, I never said that. What I said was what I said is I don't want to go back to 20 or 25. Okay. Yeah. It's like, no, that's exactly.
Well, again,
I don't even want to go back to 15, to be honest with you. If I'm out of the top 10, top 11, we
don't know who's going to be the GM. I mean, I am 90% sure Chris Ballard will be our GM next year. But if he's not, who knows? But Ballard, he will grab a guy where he feels he is worth, period. Doesn't matter what other people think, right? You may think that this specific quarterback, let's go with Will Levis, all right? You may think he's a top 10 quarterback. Chris Ballard might look at him and go, he's a early round 2 guy. You know, he is not going to grab him with the 15th pick of the draft. He just wouldn't do it, you know. But maybe he thinks, what's his name, Richardson or something?
Yes, Anthony Richardson from Florida.
Maybe he thinks he's a 15th, you know, a guy who would go top 10, you know, that he's worth the top 10 pick, and you think he's a second round pick, you know. He's going to grab him where he feels that pick is worthy at. You know what I mean? Not where everybody else is. That's the reason why we got the guys that we have so far. To me, I think he's a fairly good talent evaluator. I would say that, the guys that we have grabbed haven't really been reaches on anybody. I mean, Darius Shaquille Leonard's well worth the second round pick. Right. Braden Smith was well worth the second round pick. I'd say Quentin Nelson's been well worth a trade back for the 6th round pick. I would say even our quarterback, Sam Ellinger.
Not a 6th round, but a pick
number 6. Yeah. Even our quarterback, Sam Ellinger, I don't think he's starter material, but he's worth more than a 6th round pick.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and some of the guys that have crap the bed. Right. That's a lot to do with the injuries, right? Like, let's say Kamoko Toure. Talent wise, he was worth a 2nd round pick, in my opinion. Injuries held him back. Tyquan Lewis, when he was on the field, dominating player. Injuries have been holding him back. Paris Campbell, 2nd round pick. Injuries holding him back. It's been obvious this year. You know, in my opinion, his talent evaluating is awesome. He just needs to focus and be like, he needs to be so laser focused on how he's going to fill that, those 2 major positions, the left tackle and quarterback in this draft or this off season in general.
I'd like to ask you, Lawrence, to answer this and get the chat. Okay. I'm going to give you 3 options. Okay. And this is back with the front office. Number 1, do you keep Chris Ballard? Okay. Keep Chris Ballard this next year, and then bring in whatever coach and stuff, and then give Ballard 1 more year? That's your number 1 option. Okay, just if you believe that one, type in 1. Number 2, do you let Ballard go and let a whole new regime come in and start building there? Or number 3, do you keep Ballard, but then you put his contract with whatever coach that comes in, okay, and whatever coach comes in to fill that head coaching spot, and then put them back to where they're tied. So in other words, you're going to give Ballard multiple more years with this organization, which I will be honest with you. I like Ballard. Like you said, I like his talent evaluation. For me, I would go with number 3. I'm not going to bring Ballard in and then bring in a head coach and then all of a sudden get rid of the GM the following year. That to me just seems like you're going to get stuck in purgatory much easier that way. If you trust this head coach and you trust Ballard to make that decision, I would either stick with Ballard and tie him to the new coach, or you'll have to, unfortunately, get rid of Ballard and at least have the coach and the GM both being back in lockstep, like the Colts have done historically, as far as keeping them tied to themselves.
Here's the deal. I think that with the situation that's going on, that it's kind of tricky, okay? Because with the new head coach, there's a lot of, because I don't want to lose our defensive coaches. None of them. I think our defensive coaches have been absolutely outstanding this year, and that's going to cause a problem no matter what. New head coach going to want to bring in his own guys, unless we have a guy that's made into a head coach already on the team. Unless Gus Bradley or someone ends up becoming head coach next year. So that's a situation. I like Ballard. I think Ballard sticks around another year. I think the next head coach will be tied to Ballard.
Okay,
that's what I think. And I think that Ballard has to be given the thing of, you have to get a quarterback or, fill that role with something. Give me your plan right now for that position.
Yeah.
Give me your plan.
That's
especially,
That's Irsay saying it to Ballard.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's the way I see it. And then at that point, Ballard's the one that's going to be picking. If he's the GM, he's the one deciding who's the next head coach.
Right. And that's the thing, as much as the whole coaching, way Reich was not the original guy and stuff, and I get it. It worked out, and they worked well together for a few years and stuff. But the thing is I really do like the idea of not having that lame duck situation, whether it's at the GM or what have you. I just want these guys to both be lockstep, so they're both held accountable, and this whole, Ballard, his talent evaluating is amazing. He's shown over the last couple years, especially, that he's adopting the free agency and moving around. Because I was on board, early on, which it really wasn't time for free agency. But now, if we're going with the retooling instead of the rebuild, like you said, bring Ballard in, make some trades, go around and do some, not trades, but do some, be aggressive in free agency and stuff. Maybe find one or two solutions, but we still got to lock in. Rodney McLeod, I can't get, like I said, at least one of the two linebackers. You mentioned Tyquan Lewis, which Tyquan's up. Do you bring Tyquan back? Because these are solid guys that have proven themselves to play well. They've just been unfortunate. And the thing is their unfortunate situation also makes it cheaper to keep them with the Colts and stuff. And it's sit there and keep giving these guys, because, we've seen it with Paris Campbell, 3 years of just knocked out. Then all of a sudden, boom, now he's sat there and he's healthy this season, and you see how dynamic he is, and you remember that. And that's a young man that I'm like, the more and more I see from him, the longer in my mind, it's like, oh, okay, I'm at 2 years now. I'm like, Paris needs a 2-year contract. He keeps going. By the end of the season, I may be back to give him a full contract, and let's just hope the health thing is behind him now.
Well, you can drop an injury clause in a contract. It's not liked and frowned upon, obviously, by the players' agents and the players themselves, but you can. Here's the deal. Paris Campbell is not going to get a 1 year, $3 million prove it deal. This year was his prove it year. Okay. He's not going to get he, at this point, literally at what he's producing on the field, with the way wide receivers have jumped the past couple years in contract wise, he's going to get 10 plus million a year. That's the sad thing. Or at least he could get that in free agency. I think we could probably keep him for a year or two under $8 million, at around $8 million for the Colts.
A small discount, not a big discount, but just a little bit, because I got that.
Yeah, because he knows the team, he knows the players, he knows the situation, and that's what. Guys, we've been here 45 minutes and we have not done one ad, not talked about one thing, and it's okay. We've been getting it. It's been a week for me and 2 weeks for Loyalist. I apologize, guys. If you haven't done it yet, please smash that like button. Hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and tag that notification bell so that you are notified next time we go live. Tomorrow, I'm uploading me and Gerard's game preview for the Vikings. And we'll also do our own game preview live here as well. But please make sure you smash that like button. Obviously, if you want to donate to the channel, help support us outside of just hitting the like button, use the donation link at the top of the description. It's also scrolling across the bottom of the screen here. And then there's other things as well. You can go check out our merch shop. Come check out the Colts Law merch shop. New items added every week. All sorts of items, from clothing to cups to cozies to backpacks, hats, just miscellaneous items that you can get around the house, even phone covers. Just check it out. Let me know. Send me a message. Hey, is there something that I'm missing? Go feel free to ask. Have a good one. Hey, go check out the Backroom Collection. This channel is proudly sponsored by the Backroom Collection. They do beautiful sports canvas art with football, basketball, baseball, and other sports themes. Special orders are accepted and autograph pieces are available. Many Indianapolis Colts signed pieces will be available beginning in November. Just use your discount code CL10 to purchase the pieces you want to spice up your living area. That's CL10. Well, it's just me. Loyalists decide that, oh, wait, no, there he is. Okay. No, hold on. Oh, there he is. Hi.
What happened?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Here's the deal. Okay. So the way Ballard does business with, if a player wants to be put on the trading block, he kind of tries to do right by players, especially when they do right for the team, right? He offered to put Marlon Mack on the trading block when he was asked. Naheem Hines, he asked to be traded, and he got the trade. If you play well, you get paid. That's going to be a huge plus to any player in free agency as well, right? So that's going to help. Now, and then plus, if you continue, as you say, playing well, even if you don't win, if you just play well and look like, hey, we're one or two players, short. Because right now, this defense, outside of that fourth quarter, has been one of the best top 5 defenses in the NFL. And that crap that happened in Dallas in the fourth quarter, that's just random crap that happens to just about any team at any given time, where you just can't stop the slide, right? Bullshit runs downhill and it runs you right to hell over. There's nothing you can stop it sometimes. And that's what happened. But look, at this point, I think that, this is a retooling. This is a retooling and building for the future. Tom puts a good question in here. Are we doing the Patreon this evening? That's another way that you could support the channel. Yes, we are doing the Patreon at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to join the Patreon stream, where we start every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time until whenever it ends, whenever, generally I end up ending it after, for myself, after about 2 hours, because I'm either hungry or tired or something. But either way, bunch of Patreon members come in and we hang out and talk just like the way me and Loyalist are right now. It's only $5 a month. What else do you get with Patreon there, Loyalist?
well, you get all the behind the scenes with the Believe in Colts, which I love that. You sit there and get to listen to Rodney and Gerard and Lawrence get talking and stuff. We get, like Lawrence said, we got our Wednesday Patreon, and then you just get all the content. And anytime Lawrence goes and does a show, or I go and do a show for a different content creator or whatever, we try to get that and put it on Patreon. So, guys, I'll tell you right now, Patreon, Discord, Lawrence is really building this thing up really nicely. And it's a good thing, like all these questions, like I can turn this show into easily another, what are we doing at running back? Because, what are we looking at with Kenny Moore II because of his pre-contract or preseason talk about contracts? How do we, like I said, guys, Lawrence is like, all right, we'll carry some of this over to Patreon, just for the simple fact that this could turn out to be a 3-hour show, and then all of a sudden we're late for Patreon.
Exactly. But I do enjoy sitting here talking to just the general public here, here on YouTube. It is fun. But hey, it's nice to see nearly 50 of you in here. That's really good. We haven't been doing really good live shows in the last couple weeks, so I'm glad to see that that's still up and going. Me personally, yeah, no problem, Tom. If you got to run, that's cool. But hey, so I don't know who the Colts are going to get at quarterback this year. I don't know if we're going to draft a guy in the first round. I don't know if we're going to get someone or trade for somebody. I mean, that's a possibility as well. There's still some young guys out there that's possible that could be traded out. God, I don't want certain quarterbacks, but who knows? Who knows? And like I said, you said 27, I say 30 is the limitation on quarterbacks that are in the NFL right now. I don't want Tom Brady. I don't want Matt Ryan being our starter. If Matt Ryan's here next year, I want him more as the backup in case of injury, plus, someone to be that, veteran leader to help bring up the next guy. I don't know if Matt would want to do that, but that's where I would put him at this point.
Why wouldn't he? $35 million to sit there and be an extra coach?
Yeah. I mean, and I mean, his knowledge and leadership from what we've seen has been outstanding. His play on the field has been different, obviously, but his knowledge of the game and his leadership that he has shown has been absolutely outstanding and would be an absolute gem to have as a young guy coming in to learn from, right? I don't know if it's worth $35 million, but, it is what it is where we're sitting at this point. But so there's a lot to talk about. There's a ton of questions, like we said, when it comes to the offensive. Well, you haven't talked about the tight ends yet. We haven't talked about wide receivers over and the running backs, the safety group. Do you let where do you go with Blackman? Right, because Blackman hasn't returned from injury nearly the same as he was, pre-injury.
And how much of that, and the thing with Blackman is how much of that is just he hasn't acclimated to this new defensive scheme. You know what I mean? Because of positions that have gone through the most drastic change, linebacker and that safety position has really had the biggest change in their roles and stuff, and like you said, to me, Kenny Moore II, that's something that I love what this defense has been. And if we could hold it together and just add to it, that would be phenomenal. But at what cost? You know what I mean? How much more is Kenny Moore II going to be, requiring? Which granted, he's still got another year on contract. But the thing is, the way it was handled this last offseason, you have to believe that those are going to be much more heated, much more ramped up, not heated, but ramped up conversations and stuff. So, Rodney McLeod, to me, you have to bring back Rodney McLeod because this dude has been, and this, I'm not saying this just because he's, your co-host. I mean, this dude has been a godsend. I mean, I love what we got from Stephon Gilmore, but I fully expected that. Rodney McLeod has been, to me, that glue guy. He's been the Jack Doyle of the defense. He's been the guy that has really, really helped elevate the play of a lot of these guys in the secondary.
Absolutely. And, shout out to him because, you brought him up as being my co-host. There's a lot of content that don't even go on Patreon that we have that because it's just conversations that can't be out in public, period, that I've gotten from him. And I've learned a lot from him. I would love to keep him around as my co-host again just because of that, So now, obviously, having former players like Gerard and DeQuell, they really helped me out a lot as well. But it's awesome. I mean, I'm living a dream, and it's a shame that I can't. My situation is not good. I don't want to dive into it right now, but my dream is to continue doing what I'm doing. My problem is I might have to cut this back dramatically and go get a real job. And that would suck, because financially, I'm not getting enough money off the videos and, things of that nature to be able to pay all my bills. So That hurts, but it is what it is.
I want to say Temple on D. I see your question in here, but I'll be honest with you. If we did that, this conversation would be quite lengthy because, the Jeff Saturday, how do you feel about? Well, a lot of people are going to have a lot of different opinions, but what I will say on this is there is going to be a process, okay? Because of all the eyes and attention that was brought on just with him being the interim, the Colts are going to be watched with the magnifying glass, especially with the Brian Flores situation, just the way that things have been portrayed in the league the last couple of years. Me personally, I think that Saturday has done enough to enter the conversation, but I don't think that he's done enough that sits there and says he's my guy. You know what I mean? Now, there's a lot of extinction. I mean, you sit there now with the loss of Clayton Adams. I mean, this offensive coaching staff, you start taking, role and stuff. And then all of a sudden, okay, because you lost your head coach, you lost your offensive coordinator. Now you're losing your tight end coach. It's like, what's going on? So the way he has juggled and handled this situation, I think has been really good, but I don't know that he's done enough to just sit there and say, here, it's your job.
All right. Two questions here. Well, actually one question, one statement. I'm going to go off of the McLeod thing. Last week during his time off, he was back in Philly at his old high school and doing community work there. So yeah, McLeod is awesome on and off the field. Absolutely 100% agree. When it comes to full-time next season for Coach Saturday, now he has stated that he wants the job. Did you see that, Loyalist?
Oh yeah. About Saturday wanting the head coach. Yeah.
Yeah. He's not here to be part-time. He wants to be here full-time. Yeah. But he has to continue to show growth at being a head coach, right? I'm seeing it from him, but I want to see him continue to grow at this point. Before I name him as a head coach. Is he out of the question? No. Right now, no. I like he has performed better than I expected, in all honesty. And the reason why he came here, he has done his job for the reason he came here to my expectations or better, because I honestly feel like the offensive line has performed better the last 3 or 4 weeks than they did, obviously, the first 7, 8. So, the plus on him, he's kept everybody in the positive, in the mood in the locker room and stuff of that nature. So, he's still in the conversation, but there still needs to be a lot of growth out of Saturday over the next 4 games.
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, for me personally, we were talking about the Ballard situation and whether he stays, and we were talking about how we want to keep Jeff Saturday staying or becoming the head coach and stuff makes a lot of that other stuff be able to happen. If Jeff Saturday comes in and goes through the process and everything, and Irsay says and Ballard says that's my guy, then it makes it so much easier to keep your defensive coordinator and keep the defensive side of things together. It makes it so much easier to sit there and say, you know what? All right, we're going to sort this offensive side of things out, and Jeff can bring in guys that he trusts. You know what I mean? But the thing, and he said it perfectly. He says, heck yeah, I want to be the coach. If they want me, so we know what Saturday's perspective is. Now the question is, during the offseason, what is the Colts' perspective on Saturday? And I really feel like to sit there and say that he's guaranteed the job, that would be, you just can't do that. There's a whole process that, as there should be, there's a whole process that needs to be undergone and taken.
Absolutely.
Because, you, as much as you like what Saturday has brought this year, you can't sit there and just ignore some of these other men that, names that we don't even know right now that, maybe somebody loses a college coaching job, or maybe there's a surprise termination in one of these winning organizations. So my point is just right now, figuring that question out, what you got with Saturday. Let's just let this process work its way out, because the process, and I know I sound like that whole player speak, but the process in this particular scenario is very important because of all what the head coach does for an organization.
Absolutely. Now, Basil asked the question, continuing on, who would I want as head coach or offensive coordinator? Now, when it comes to head coach, I'm not even in that process right now. All right. I want to finish off the season, see what the team looks like, what the needs are, right? Whether Saturday's still in the mix, things of that nature. Right now, I think we do need an offensive-minded head coach. Because I feel like if we're able to keep Gus Bradley and the defensive coaches with an offensive-minded head coach and let the offensive-minded head coach, rebuild the offensive side of the coaching tree, then that'd be awesome. I think that would be absolutely fantastic in my opinion, because I do like our defensive side. But outside of that, I haven't really given a lot of thought on that. When it comes to offensive coordinator, look, I love Parks Frazier as a person, and I like what he's doing in the tight spot that he's put in right now. But I need a play caller. Like I need a guy who designs and makes his own. And right now, it's not what I'm wanting for this team. I would honestly go with,
I just want to point out to you, he's wanting to know, is there anybody that's off your list? He was asking, who do you not want to be the OC or the head coach?
Oh,
it made it easier to answer.
The not.
Yeah, it makes it easier to answer.
No, okay, yeah, I don't. Okay, so I do not want an offensive coordinator that has been riding the coattails of the offensive head coach that's been, that head coach has been calling plays that don't generally work out too much. Rarely does that work out. The only time in recent memory that I can think of that's actually worked out is our very own Nick Sirianni. That's the only time that's legitimately worked out in my mind that I can think of. Generally, that stuff over the last few years hasn't worked out that way. If I'm going to get a head coach, I want some or an offensive coordinator that's going to be making the play calls. I want that person who has had a hand in doing it already.
Yeah, and that right there, I want my OC calling the plays. Okay, I want my head coach, putting together, game plans and stuff, but I want the play calling to be left to the offensive coordinator. I know that's reverting back to the old way but to me, there's just too much on the plate of a head coach to sit there and ask him to also be your play caller. Okay. We saw it with Reich, Reich come in and really, I'm not as harsh on Reich about play calling as a lot of Colts Nation is, but there was still a lot of times where you're like, dude, if you would have been able to, have a step back and looking at it while the play caller's sitting there grinding out the play calls and stuff, then the head coach can just sit there and chime in and say, no, this is what I want. I want to sit there and, maybe, hit the edges a little more or whatever. The coach just gets a better view, in my opinion, whenever they're not preoccupied with calling every play. Like I said, I would love for the OC to also be the play caller.
I disagree about Reggie and the wide receivers. Outside of one specific guy, because he was a rookie and he's got rookie mistakes, right? With drops and stuff of that nature. I think the wide receiver group has been phenomenal. Like I see them getting open all the time on film. I mean, open, not just open, but getting massive separation. Paris Campbell's separation has been ridiculous this year. Ridiculous. The only problem is where is he getting that separation? And does the quarterback have time sitting in the pocket to be able to get the ball to him? And most of the time, that's a big fat no. But No, I think the receivers have done a fantastic job. I think the biggest issue has been the quarterback play, the limitations of on the quarterback between that quarterback itself and what the offensive line has allowed that quarterback to be able to do with the time in the pocket that they allow.
Yeah, and me personally, I like what this receiving core has been, and I love Reggie Wayne. Okay, I mean, I think Reggie was the exact guy. So I'm sorry, Mikey, but I'm gonna totally disagree, and I don't normally do that. But like I said, Reggie Wayne was perfect for this guys. And the thing is to your point, Michael Pittman Jr. has fallen off this year, but it's not because Michael Pittman Jr. is not running the routes. It's not that his play has fallen off. The opportunities have not been there, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's the quarterback not hitting them in the right spot. There's a lot of excuses.
Well,
Okay.
it's also he's less the main target now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He is still the main target, but he's less so because the quarterback doesn't have to go to Michael Pittman Jr. every snap because Paris Campbell has stepped up, because Doolin has stepped up, and then you got the young guy who, for some god awful reason, no offense to Alec Pierce, but Matt Ryan just loves that 50-50 ball, right? And he's used to having that guy like a Julio Jones, and Alec Pierce is Julio Jones-esque. I'm not saying he's Julio Jones. I'm just saying he's esque like that. And it seems like he throws it to him for the 50-50 ball a lot, and not, in my opinion, we need to be able to give quarterbacks a little bit more time in the pocket, and we need a quarterback that's got a little bit more throwing power to be able to get the ball to their, intended target quicker. So I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off like that.
No, you're fine. Because like I said, I just want to see more competition at that wide receivers room. I want to see the whole room get elevated. Okay. And I'm not sure. I've sort of gotten the sense that Reggie, I mean, he said, if he knew how this year was going to go, he would have been a hard pass, and that to me says that, okay, this feels like Reggie's not really happy with the way this is all playing out and stuff. And that maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm reading that wrong. But so to me, get these young, talented guys more competition. Let's elevate the play at that wide receiver room. And then whoever, whether it's Reggie or whatever, to me, that's going to be less of an importance than the offensive coordinator. You really need an offensive coordinator who can play and can coach a wide open offense, can coach this new generation of football, can coach the more RPO type stuff that, what I mean? And I don't mean that can just coach it, but I mean really understands it and can teach it to the guys on the field.
Absolutely. Mikey Mendez, I cannot agree more wholeheartedly. Yes, if we get a new head coach, then the whole offensive staff is going to be gone. The only way I think Reggie Wayne ends up sticking around is if Jeff Saturday somehow continues to play very well and wins that head coaching position.
Yeah. And the thing is if you get a new head coach, it could also mean that, like, I think he was talking about, offense and defense, that's a hard sell. And there again, depends on who the candidates are. If you get a guy in here who's got a long, like, do you remember how Reich was? He knew that he wanted Sirianni. He knew a lot of the guys that he wanted to be coaching and stuff. And then whenever he got here, there was already some pieces in place, and he adapted that and just said, okay, because it was his first time coaching. I don't even know that I want a first time coach. I mean, I really don't. Depends on what their experience is, but I really would like to sit there and see one of these young, vibrant, understands the RPO. Let's start utilizing some of this talent that we Nyheim Hines, losing Nyheim Hines and stuff because of lack of production or lack of opportunity. That's just shameful. Okay. You know what I mean? Because he was an asset that if we could have found a way to implement him, he would have really helped elevate this team on the offensive side of things this year.
All right, guys, we're an hour 10 in. I have to jump off here and set up my Patreon. I'm already running late. Thanks everybody for being in here. we will get into the actual game either tomorrow or Friday. Keep an eye open for that. And until next time, hey, please smash that like button, guys, before we leave. If you haven't done it yet, do so. If you already have, go hit it again. I don't want you to kick it off. I'm hiccuping because I drank too fast.
Hope we did good enough for you, Basil.
Yeah. First time back in a while. 2 weeks for Loyalist and a week for me. So, guys, again, have a good one. Go Colts.
Just because a player's not a household name doesn't mean we can't make him a household name.
There is too much damn talent on this team to just blow it up. All right?
Yes, sir.
Too much.